building owners, what they started doing was burning down their own buildings to collect insurance money. So the Bronx in America was in rubble. It looked like bombs were going off. And a lot of these kids were 13, 14, 15 years old. Some of them no parents, some of them maybe a mom. But I have a friend who was like a first generation breakdancer. He was 13 years old. He lived in an abandoned building with his friends. And he said most of his friends lived like that. And so for them, they were like, we needed to express ourselves so bad. They weren't going to school. They had nothing to do. So they invented hip hop culture. So any hip hop or rap you like right now, it happened because of these kids. And now it's like a multi-billion-dollar industry. Any street art I do now, it happened because of these kids, right? So we really need to be grateful for kind of what they did for us nowadays. But yeah, so that's kind of, they formed crews and started riding on trains. Go ahead and go forward. You'll see that the letters start to change, and there's reason for this, right? So at first they were writing inside the trains, and then after a while the trains got full, so there was no more space, and then they started going outside of the trains. And if you've ever been to the Bronx, the train is elevated like 30 feet in the air, and it's going like 30 miles an hour. So a little tag wasn't going to do it anymore. So they started getting bigger with their letter form. And really they were looking at like billboards and comic books and all these things to get inspiration. Seen as one of the most famous, like iconic graffiti artists from back then. He's still alive, still painting. He mostly paints Harleys now, so kind of airbrushes Harleys. Keep going. Is the Wiz, he passed away maybe 5 years ago. But yeah, super famous, classic, almost like bubble letter style here. Yeah, those two we would call, in the graffiti world, we call them throw-ups because you're throwing them up really fast, or throwies. But in layman's term, you just call them bubble letters. Yeah. Amaze. So I used to hang out on Haight Street all the time. Like that was my spot. I remember when this happened, like overnight. I was there like a few days before, and then Amaze did this huge, massive bubble letter on Haight Street in the 90s overnight. So yeah, those are all throwies. More throwies. This is cap. So we have a term called capping, where you go over another person. And he was kind of the guy that like invented that. And it's, I don't know, it's like a big debate in graffiti, like whether it's good or not. But yeah, there's like battle elements of graffiti, but yeah, so we call that capping, which I don't recommend. So he capped Cap because he got capped. So yeah, so they had this battle back in the day. So you start to see the letter forms. This is like early 70s, but over time they just get better and better. Blade was really famous for like creating interesting like moving parts in his pieces, or yeah, all these cartoons he would do. Yeah, really getting experimental on the letters. So it's just, through the years, they just get better. So now they're, these 13-year-olds are probably 15, and then keep going. There you see Scene again. And now like this is an older piece, this is probably 12 years ago, but like you see the difference. Like it's just come so far. Part of that is the technology of spray paint now is so much user friendly. That's also a reason street art is more popular. That like 20 years ago, they would never teach graffiti art or street art in fine art college. They wouldn't touch it. But now spray paint is easy to use, so now you have a wave of street art coming out of universities, and they're actually teaching graffiti and street art now at universities. Can anybody read this, or give me one letter out of it? This is a 5-letter word. Does anybody see any letters? Is there